Hello, and welcome to another short video on developing high-performing leadership teams. Today, I'd like to talk about mental models or mindsets and how the stories we hold in our minds about one another impact how we interact. I'm going to illustrate this point with a model by Albert Ellis called the ABC model. Events occur. I'm driving down the road, car comes up on my right, pulls in front of me, cuts me off. I'm over in my car driving, observing this event, and I notice myself being from New York. I notice the license plate being from New Jersey, and I have an emotional response. I get angry, I get frustrated, and a behavior that's concurrent. I accelerate, I flash my lights. Imagine another event. I'm facilitating a session with you. I'm looking at my watch. You're over there in your chairs watching me, and you make an interpretation. The facilitator's bored, distracted, not paying attention. You have an emotional reaction. You get disengaged, and you have a behavior that's concurrent with that. Maybe you check out. Now imagine a parallel universe going on at the same time, where that driver comes by me, cuts me off, but somehow I can understand that they just received a phone call from the hospital that their wife is in labor giving birth to their first child. Imagine you're looking at me facilitating that session, looking at my watch, and your interpretation is that the facilitator is trying to get us through the agenda, facilitating to get to the outcomes that we need to get to with a lot of care for the team. Now, your emotion in that case would be to be even more deeply engaged, and your behavior to be even more constructive in the meeting. So the point that this illustrates, our reactions, both emotional and behavioral, are driven by the interpretations or the stories that we make up about the events that we see. The events themselves are actually quite neutral. Now, one of the most difficult things about stories is they tend to have patterns to the nature of the stories. Two things are almost always true. One is they're about us. We make things about ourselves when it may be having nothing to do with us. And number two is they're generally negative. So when my wife may be cold and distant, I make up a story that she's angry at me, which may sometimes be true. Now, the thing to remember here, or the goal, is to be conscious of our stories, to be aware. What happens in my mind when I see that New Jersey driver's plate is a blink of an eye interpretation. The story comes quicker than I'm able to really reflect on. And my reaction, emotions, and behavior happen right on the heels of that interpretation. When I'm at my best, particularly in a team environment, I'm aware of and I can reflect on those stories that are going on in my mind. I'm able to question the assumptions that are underlying my interpretations and actually think and be much more often closer to reality. So remember, our reactions are driven by the interpretations or stories that we make, not the events. Be aware of your stories and check them out. Check those assumptions. And with your teammates, coach one another to reflect on our stories by asking, what's your story about that?